Project basically has been going for 14 years this year now. Initially, it was designed using permaculture. So initially, it was started obviously from the garden, but now that kind of extends to the whole home. So it's still my home. It's a council property, which is unusual, social housing. But, I've turned it into a demonstration site. What we do a lot more now is actually we've had different programs that engage with different types of different communities, but specifically now we're focused on young people, and this round of funding has allowed us to engage with young people that are on the edges of society. So in this case, young refugees. We basically have a program called Hip Hop Garden, which consists of 5 modules, and the permaculture sits under the food growing. Sits underneath the food growing, but also the fact that a lot of the work we do is actually on site as well, so the permaculture site. So it's a much more subtle way of actually engaging young people in this notion of permaculture, as opposed to being very overt with the theory. It's like the experiential first, and then the theory comes after. That's kind of how we always work, and that's primarily come out of the fact that I'm dyslexic. So that's kind of how I like to learn. I like to do things and then learn the theory afterwards as well. We want to make everything accessible. We want and also make it cultural relevant. And actually, by saying certain terminologies, people feel distant or removed from it. They're like, what's that? I don't understand that. But if you kind of show them actually the methodologies that they already have within their culture, that, oh yeah, we do this here, we do that in our culture, we do this in our family. My grandpa used to do this, my mum used to do this. And so we kind of do it in that way, so that then we can then bring the theory into it, depending on where they're at. So one of the things is, at the present moment, I've just been working on with feedback to get more young people apprenticeships in food growing industry. So certain community farmers specifically at the moment I'm recruiting, and they've gone from, like, I think it was about 1 or 2 young people to 20 applicants now for that job. So that's kind of my work. I'm kind of using that same methodology to just ensure that the right young people, or just not even the right young people, those on the margins, come into the mainstream. I think that's my phrase. Before it was value the marginal. Now I'm like, the margin should be the mainstream, because until that happens, you're still going to have the repetition of the system that's already gone before, behaviours and patterns as well. So that's very much what my focus is in the moment. So yeah, so participatory arts is one of the crucial elements of our work throughout. It works in evaluation kind of format. So, we can even attract, for example, you can hear them when they first arrived. There was a uncomfortability about telling their stories because of the trauma they've been through. And actually now the whole track is quite honest. So there's that evaluation. A lot of the music is done outside. So if you see on the Instagram, you can see that basically a lot of the performances and rehearses, is done outside. That's really crucial. It's a subtle thing, but it's a crucial difference, how we approach it. It also acts as we're not prescriptive with the outcome of what tracks they make. So with the group before we worked in, Marcus Lipton, they talked specifically about food, which I can send you a link for. But this one was much more about their journeys. So we used the framing of music and creative arts to allow them to express themselves, and the garden or the permaculture or whatever it may be acts as a stimulus for them to explore that. But we're not like forcing them to go down that route. So I kind of use that compost metaphor. If you put people in the right environment, like this kind of like waste, I call waste, trauma, emotions, like the equivalent of waste veg, Yeah. But if you put it in the right environment and the right stimulus, it can be turned into something very useful and resourceful. And this is an example of that with this track. So it tells a story of their basic journey to the UK. Like, and you know, one guy, for example, you know, you hear him, I traveled across here to get here, to get here, to get, you know, he back 7 different countries to get to the UK. And when he arrived, he wasn't welcomed. And even now, the challenge that they have is you know, employability and, you know, basically becoming fully integrated in society. So one of the things we do with Hip Hop Garden is actually we do have a unit specifically called employability and entrepreneurship, because one of the things that a lot of these youth projects do, they don't deal with systematic oppression. They don't talk about the effects of that and what limits their opportunities to be integrated in society. So there's a lot of really good work being done with well-being and support, but actually they just want to work. They want to make some money to send either for themselves, to make them feel good about themselves, or to send back to their parents, like, for example, or actually reunite themselves with their family. Because some of them have left because of you know, various different war-torn countries, conscription, all these different things that mean they just leave. It's horrendous. Like literally, they will get up, they can't tell anybody that they're leaving, and they just leave. They can't tell their family, can't tell their friends, because if anyone finds out, then that could affect their ability to actually jeopardize their, you know, to, you know, jeopardize their opportunity to kind of come to the UK. And I always just say, I keep reminding them that if you can do that, I say it in the video, you'll see it. If you can do that, you can achieve anything. So using that framing of valuing the marginal, like actually, again, where do we go to learn different ways to engage people? How do we have new knowledge? How do we kind of use these kind of their stories, their information, their understanding? So sometimes, for example, like with CV-19, with COVID now, they're in lockdown. So what we've been doing is redistributing food to them, redistributing some plants for them, gym equipment, technology, games, just been advocating, like, for example, like one young person didn't know that they could even go out because of the language barrier. So they've been stuck inside for like 4 or 5 weeks. And we're like, no, you can actually go out for one or two, you know, forms of exercise a day and social distance, you know. He wasn't aware of that. So just kind of all those things that we do presently. So we've reframed Hip Hop Garden program to respond to what's happened at the present moment as well. Yeah. And also we're doing online courses for them now. So they've got English classes, they've got music classes, and DJing. And I think someone's actually, one of the young boys is actually, where he's staying with the foster kids, is now done the garden. You know, has basically gone on to actually spend some time in the garden and do these foster carers' garden, which is the greatest outcome for us.